Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. We are doing another design team project for Kraftgali, and we are going to be having so much fun today with this watercoloring book. This book I showed you in one of my recent unboxings. It is the Foil Watercolor Decor Coloring Book. It is from Adolph, and it comes with 24 8x10 sheets. Half of them are in gold embossing, or foiling rather, and half of them are silver. Now I say embossing because it's very similar. It has a resistible technique type feel to it. So you can get the paints over it and wipe them up easily, but technically they do look foily because they're shiny. So you get, like I said, 24 sheets. It is on quality cardstock for watercoloring. And I am just going to go through here and show you how I painted these up. Now I have been talking about watercoloring and how I'd like to improve upon that technique. I've been doing it a lot more recently in my videos, and I have to say, you just got to work at it. You just got to practice. When I first started these first couple flowers, I was not happy with it. I thought this is not going to be a good project. In fact, it's probably going to get scrapped in the B-roll somewhere and no one's ever going to see it. But I just kept at it. I just kept trying to work with it because at one point when you figure, well, it's ruined and it's done, why not continue to try to play with it? Because if it's already garbage, then you have nothing to lose. And so that's exactly what I was doing. I think I felt like I could turn this around after this flower, and I started on the second big flower. It's when I kind of felt a little bit more confident about maybe I'm not putting enough water, maybe I am just not blending it the right way. So, because I started to notice these two were just not blending, the color wasn't moving enough. And so I thought, okay, what am I doing? Took a second, assessed it, and then decided to keep trying. I am using Arteza watercolors from the tubes. I have a palette to my left here, and I have my clean water and my dirty water in cups, and I am just going to dip in the clean water, pick up some color, put a little color off on my paper towel there just so that it's not totally saturated, and then go back and forth doing these techniques. So dirty water to clean it, clean water. It's a process because you want to get the most real color that you possibly can. If you're continuously dunking your paintbrush in dirty water, you're not going to get a true color from what I found. So I'm thinking here at this point, you know, the green is kind of coming out nice. I think I go over a couple of these leaves a second time just to give them a little bit more of the shadow type feel. Now I'm starting on these next two flowers. I'm starting with the centers here. After all was said and done, I did forget to do the little purple and pink flower centers, but that's easy. You could probably even put some Nuvo drops in there. I think that'd be kind of cool. But on this flower here, I decided that I was going to try to do an orange, pink, red kind of mix. And when I keep pulling the red color up into the orange, it's becoming too orange. So I decided to go in and put the orange, or yellowish color rather, at the top of the flower and drag it down into the red. And this way I was able to keep a little bit more of that yellowish hue to be true. So that was working out a little bit better for me. Also a little bit more water and moving a little bit faster, not staying, not doing too much and letting it dry too much. I kind of hit one little piece at a time, if you will. This way it stayed a little bit wet and allowed me to mix that color a little bit more easily. So that was another thing that I picked up along the way. As I was coloring through this whole entire sheet, there were tidbits of information that I was teaching myself. I have watched many people watercolor, but until you actually just really try it yourself, sometimes you don't realize what you're doing wrong. I'm a tactile learner, so I like hands-on, and I like to try it myself, and this way I can kind of work through some of those kinks and figure out how to do things better and what I need to kind of improve on. So it was drying pretty quickly. I think that's because I wasn't using a lot of water for this first part of the technique. I was going with the dry technique. So the only thing that was wet was my paintbrush. So I wanted to really try and fix this flower on the right hand side. It was too flat, it was too one color. So I went back in with some orange, and I'm just kind of covering up some of that. I think maybe it might have even been a yellow, but of course because it was so red, that orange mixed with it, and that's the color we got. So I felt like that was a lot more dimension. Watercoloring is a very forgiving technique. It's very easy to just be abstract with it because it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that is the most brilliant part about all of this. I think it's just fun to just play and have a good time. Even if you go outside the lines a little bit, you can clean it up real quick with just some clean water and a paper towel. So it is very, very forgiving. It's very easy to work with. Okay, so I'm moving on to the next flower here. You can see I kind of did that center portion all red first, and that was able to give me a good foundation to continue. But as you can see, it's kind of not blending as well just because it dried up a little bit. So I would recommend maybe kind of sticking to one petal at a time to kind of work with it. It's a little more time consuming because you have to go from the dirty water to the clean water, but you get the idea. For the leaves, I am choosing a very dark deep green for the outline that I'm trying to make here, and then a very soft, much softer green, but not a pale, just a much softer green to kind of fill in some of that area. Here I go back to this one because I felt like it was a little bit too flat, and so I add a little bit of dimension for that. Not too much paint on that one. And then I'm going to work my way up to the next flower here in just a minute. I kept the large flowers. Cannot tell you what kind of flower they are. I mean, I have strengths in this life, but being a green thumb, it's not one of them. So I have no idea what kind of flowers these are. Feel free to share if you do. My mother would know, I'm sure of it. She's wonderful when it comes to growing plants. But on this technique here, I made the entire petal of that flower, I made that wet, just sopping wet, and then I dropped in water, and I thought that was a lot of fun to do. Very simple, and I think that's really kind of one of the true watercoloring techniques. And the paint's going to go to where the water is because it is attracted to it. So it just fills in very, very nicely. And so I do that. I'm using a combination of purples and pinks for those circular flowers. I'm going to finish up the last flower on our panel here with the same concept. Now, because I am watercoloring and I'm not making any attempts to make them match, you're going to get this bouquet of similar flowers that are probably from the same family, right? But they're all a little bit different in their own right. I didn't make any of those flowers identical. Some have more orange, some have more red, more yellow. They're just all very different, and I think that was the most fun thing that I got to see at the end of it. I don't think I was actually happy with this panel until I was 100% done with it. So that's why I say when I first started, I felt extremely defeated by this panel. It's just my honest opinion and my honest feelings on it. But then I said, just keep going. And then I got to this point, and I thought, wow, you know, I think that was okay for a first attempt at a full watercolor panel. And now I'm going to cut it down, which I have to tell you, I stared at it for quite a while before I said, just do it. So I did cut it, and I don't regret it because I love the way the cards came out, but I'm laughing because if you could have been here in the craft room with me as I went through that process, I was like, what am I doing? But you can frame that if you want. You can hang it on your fridge, or you can cut it down because I am a card maker at heart, and I am going to make 4 cards out of this one panel. So that's what I decided to do. I am taking this these 2 sentiments from Avery Elle, and I'm going to stamp those out here. I'm just going to show you the stamping. I'm using some Nocturne ink from VersaFine Claire, and it gives you that beautiful, sharp, black sentiment there. And these cards are shaping up. I really like the way they're coming out. So the first card here, I tried to evenly space on my card panel, and I just didn't like all the extra. It just didn't seem even enough. So the next couple cards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump them up a little bit closer to the corners of my card base, and then I'm going to trim them down. I forgot to mention in this video that I'm actually in a hotel room. I am on a work trip for the week, and I couldn't let that stop me from crafting. So I brought all my favorite things. But I brought this trimmer, although I don't use it in my videos really at all, because it has a score line and it has a cutter. So it was 2 tools in one. And so that's why I brought that, and it was flat. So I have a bunch of different trimmers, and they all have different purposes, but you don't need all those. Just get what you need. I'm going to be traveling a lot probably coming up, so this works for me. So I'm going to be taking some neat and tangled sequins here, and I'm just going to be placing them on. I do the sequence placement very differently for each of the cards. I don't show you all the placement, but I'm going to show you in the end. And I'm using my pickup tool here, which is my new faves. You get 2 in a pack. Love them, from Amazon. And there is the finished card for that one. I didn't do anything else. I didn't bring any Nuvo drops with me, so I couldn't add anything like that. But I did bring sequins. And here you can see I kind of did a cascading bit of sequins falling down. But that foil is just so beautiful. These cards just speak for themselves. After you color them up, they're just beautiful. And I was so happy to get 4 cards from that panel. So that will do it for these cards today. Thank you so much for stopping by, for hanging out with us. And I'll list everything we used below. You can comment below if you have any questions. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, you can take a look at these videos we have posted, and it'll hold you over. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.